Welcome to the Korea Society's Arts and Culture program. This live webcast is made possible by the generous support from YouTube. I'm Eva Pilgrim of ABC News. One of the biggest stories in the entertainment industry for the past decade is the astounding success of K-pop in the US and around the world. Korean pop music first broke into the US in 2012 with artists like Psy, BoA, Wonder Girls. And with the continuing success of artists like BTS, Blackpink, and many more, K-pop has become a category unto itself and a force to be reckoned with. There are many reasons for the success of K-pop, but undeniably its popularity is closely tied to that of YouTube, which also has become the main platform for music video release. Just look at the success of Psy's Gangnam Style, which is the first video to top 1 billion views on YouTube. And it still continues to reign as one of the most watched music videos on that platform. Through YouTube, K-pop music videos are watched and shared around the globe, and Korean artists communicate with their ever increasing and very dedicated fans everywhere, breaking through the language and cultural barriers. Now, to talk about everything YouTube and K-pop and how YouTube grew its global viewership and impact while promoting the cutting edge of K-culture, we are thrilled to welcome to this program Robert Kyncl. He is the Chief Business Officer of YouTube. And we are also thrilled to welcome to this program pop icon, the leader of the first generation idol group g.o.d, and the host of What's Up Man on YouTube, Joon Park. And Bob Ock, the co-producer of the YouTube Originals series Kpop Evolution. Welcome to the Korea Society, everyone. I want to start with Robert Kyncl first with YouTube. It's this platform for music video release, and that has really helped the success of K-pop. So what was it like back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, when YouTube was becoming this force in the music industry? What made YouTube the place for artists to go to showcase their music videos and other creative content instead of other platforms?
So thank you, Eva, and it's my pleasure to be here and with Joon and Robert. It's amazing, and thanks for all of your contribution and accomplishments. So if I go back in time to when YouTube was founded, which was in 2004, and I'm sorry, 2005, and it was really the first open platform where anybody could suddenly upload a video and have it distributed. At that time, it was a wild world, and a lot of people were writing YouTube off that it was a model that didn't work, was not sustainable, etc. And then Google acquired YouTube and started to invest into it. And really, the way I described those early days, it was basically grainy home videos. Right? It was just like the quality was really poor, whether it was the recording quality or bandwidth, obviously was not really as abundant. So it was not the best experience, but it was a freeing experience because it was an open platform where people could publish and reach an audience. And that was the real sort of difference from how things worked in other ways, other means of distribution of media. And music was one of the early formats that started to work really well. And lots of artists and labels, etc., were uploading music to YouTube. And we've had some of our earliest partnerships in the industry with record labels. And it's because music is universal. It travels. It's I always call music very fluid. Like it's something that is perfectly made for the internet, because everybody has a favorite playlist. Everybody in the world loves some kind of music, and because of that, if you can have a broad sort of music, you are appealing to everyone in some fashion. So what started to happen with us was suddenly lots of different people started to find their audience on YouTube. Justin Bieber was one of those, early artists, and obviously he continues to be a global phenomenon, but he was one of the early guys in music that really succeeded. Back then, he was very, very young. And I mean, he's still young, but he was even younger. And the, we've, over the years, we've progressed from a platform with grainy home pictures to a platform that works with all the record labels, all the media companies, to not only upload their own content, but also make sure that their content is enabled to be uploaded by fans all around the world, our user-generated content and fan-uploaded content. And again, with music, people love attaching sound recordings to all kinds of different videos. And that is really what propelled a video, like Gangnam Style to a global phenomenon, because it wasn't just the canonical video from Psy, it was also the fact that everybody wanted to do some version of that and share it, right? But all of that centered around music. So anyway, that was the evolution. Today, YouTube is obviously a place where all record labels, all publishers, media companies are uploading their content. They're partnering with us. They're creating original content, and they're embracing fans, embracing their content, and it's all done in HD, 4K, globally, little phones, big TVs, sort of ubiquity of distribution, and it's a wonderful thing because artists can share and reach their audiences.
You talked about Psy's Gangnam Style, so let's talk about that, because that was sort of a watershed moment. Did you guys realize that it was becoming this huge phenomenon? And let's kind of like contextualize that. How was it sort of picking up? How were the views coming in? Or was it just like all of a sudden one morning you woke up and you were like, oh my gosh?
So this is actually a great history lesson because at that time it seemed really big, the velocity. But if you look at it now, you would kind of laugh. Gangnam Style, it took 6 months after its release to get to 1 million views, which today it happens in few hours. Like if you have BTS, BTS receives 100 million views and they received 100 million views in 1 day earlier this month. But at that time, it just shows you the evolution of the internet and how fast it's gone. Gangnam Style was the biggest thing. It took 6 months to get to 1 million views, but then of course it started to explode far beyond that because people were embracing it, and it launched a global sensation because thousand person flash mobs like the one in Jakarta would cover videos from AI Weiwei and Mitt Romney, and hundreds of thousands of parodies have been uploaded to YouTube. So we were watching it. He was the first Asian artist ever to break 10 million subscribers on YouTube, and Gangnam Style was YouTube's top rising search of 2012 that year, and we saw more than 5 million searches for Gangnam Style in a single day. Again, all of those stats seemed so big then, and it seems so tiny right now. So what's happened was the velocity of releases just exploded. There's many more people on the internet. There are many more people on YouTube today, and but it's it was a Korean artist then, and it is still Korean artists now, leading and being big and reaching audiences globally. So the one constant in all this change is that South Korea is creating global sensations.
So the point that you realize that K-pop is a thing, right? And it is a thing that is successful for YouTube. Talk to us about how successful K-pop has been as a category, like currently.
So I think you might have seen coverage on our collaboration with BTS for YouTube Shorts that we're launching about the dance program. We're picking people who are most successful in the world to collaborate with us. We're looking into Korea. The success in general, 55% of YouTube creators' revenue comes from outside their home country. That's sort of the average. In certain countries, it's far greater than that. Korea is one of those, right? Because Korean artists, like Korea has a strong cultural heritage, whether it's in soap operas, movies, music, all of that. The cultural heritage and the industry and the creativity is there, and the distribution through global platforms like YouTube is helping unleash it around the world. So for them, the export business is far greater than in most countries around the world. And to us, that's wonderful, because it's like, who doesn't want to be in the export business, right? Like it's having a robust cultural export business that also means revenue is like a home run. So for us, Korea is like a beacon of what YouTube brings to the world, right? It is a beacon of success.
And I'm going to ask this next question to all of you as we talk about kind of the K-pop content that is on YouTube right now. Starting with you, Robert, what do you think made K-pop as a category so popular?
I think it's what I just mentioned, which is, the global platform can be there, but unless there's talent, there isn't content to engage with. And Korea has such a deep cultural history. I mean, just think about it, right? You have Korean movies winning Oscars. You have Korean soap operas being popular in lots of countries around the world, and Korean music being hugely popular all around the world. Like, I don't know what else you guys are trying to conquer, but you've pretty much conquered sort of all of the parts of the media business, right? And globally, and it's amazing. And so I think it's happening because of the strong creative culture, history. There's lots of training. Like, I don't know the specifics of it in the country, but there has to be lots of training that people are going through, like just being part of the industry, that helps drive this. The repeatability of success is pretty astonishing. So I think there's a structural advantage that exists in the country as it relates to creativity. And then global platforms just help spread it around the world.
And June,
but you and Robert, they'll know better than me. They're the ones actually making it happen.
Yeah, I mean, June, you know it from an artist perspective. I mean, you've done it from that side. Talk to us about why you think it's so popular. K-pop is so popular.
Basically, what it comes down to is this. I mean, I'm not trying to kiss YouTube's butt right now because Robert's here, but what you need to understand is YouTube has created that global bridge for that gap. And what you need to understand is when I first started this in like 98, 97, in the late 90s, what the Korean people, the only things that they could learn in American culture is by what they sent through TV or cable or magazines or the newspaper. But YouTube enabled people to see these things that they've never seen before. So what happens? They get all these nutrients from other countries, other parts of Asia. They're like, wow, look at all the stuff. Then they learn from it. So what do? It's like fusion. It's like Korean culture bringing in other cultures and then making it their own. That in itself is what people are fascinated with. Not just K-pop or not just K-dramas or movies. It's the fact that, wow, these people, we've never seen this before. We always thought, Asians were supposed to be really stereotypically, just like really smart in school or, nerds or whatever. But then all of a sudden they're seeing these Asians on screen and they're, doing these awesome choreographed moves that they've only seen on westernized music videos. But Asians are doing it. But it's a different flavor because Asians have they have the creativity, but sometimes they don't know how to bring it out because they're so disciplined. But then being and seeing the Western culture and bringing it in, now they could bring all these things together, like the animative, the creativeness, it comes out, but also it's really hard to, put these into words, but that's what I think it is, a combination of everything that actually YouTube enabled, especially the artists like BTS, all the newer guys to do. And, it all started, back then. It's just that we couldn't show it to the everyone else in the world. And I think that's what people are, it's like, okay, it's not just K-pop or drama. I think it's the culture that they're fascinated with now, because YouTube enabled for Korean artists to show themselves now to everyone, you know?
Yeah, and Bob, you understand this, I think, from kind of a music industry perspective as well. What do you think are some of the aspects of the industry that have driven the popularity of K-pop on YouTube?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in many respects, the Korean music industry and YouTube and the internet sort of evolved and grew together in kind of a symbiotic way. There's sort of a divergence of interest. So the genre of music itself became more and more tailored to sort of ideally suit YouTube as a delivery vehicle, including things like the emphasis on visual choreography accompanying the music. That's one of the signature pieces of the K-pop sound. And again, that is something that has over time come to be tailored to and customized to YouTube as the platform, as the channel for distribution. So there's been, again, that symbiotic sort of evolution that has made not only sort of YouTube an ideal vehicle for transmission of K-pop, but K-pop itself became, in content-wise, an ideal sort of a source of content that lent itself well to YouTube as well, if you know what I mean. So I think on that level, the system level, there's some important things there. And then if you go back again to the visual aspect of music, K-pop is unique in that, yes, it takes all these different styles and genres from, sort of without sort of regard to some of the typical boundaries around the music. Oh, you can't do that in a ballad, or you can't. Actually, in K-pop, they say you can take a sentimental ballad, ode to your mother, and throw in a gangster rap part where someone is doing preposterously aggressive gangster, sort of postures. Next thing you get a hit produced by, g.o.d. And I'm poking a little bit of a good-natured fun at Joon Park there. But this is the kind of thing that K-pop evolved into, because as Joon has said, of not only the influx of all these musical influences that became available, but then again, because of the desire to shape it to this new platform, this new delivery channel, namely YouTube. And again, the choreography itself, not to get too pedantic, one of the really important things is dance in K-pop, and dance and transmitting that dance almost as a viral vector for K-pop. And YouTube has been a fantastic, again, channel for that. Fans not only sharing the original videos, but the choreography videos and the videos showing fans how to, and then K-pop videos themselves, they use the depth of field and the visual space of, again, the visual medium in a way that other music doesn't. You'll get the literal geometry and the movement of the group members as they're coming to the forefront to sing their turn. And I think that maximizes the actual video medium itself. And again, that has evolved in tandem with the evolution of platforms like YouTube.
So Bob's there talking about kind of the videos that are being shared aren't just music videos anymore, right? Like they're the choreography videos, they're kind of reality TV show videos sometimes behind the scenes of all the things that are going on. Is that what draws people in? Is that what makes YouTube unique in that sense, to showcase this kind of content and to give people who are fans of these artists sort of that intimate feeling, like they know these guys and girls really well?
Yeah, basically, okay, I'm not saying anything bad about TV or just regular media, but TV, everything is over glamorized, and people are like mannequins or robots, are so perfect, right? So TV is really good for that. But YouTube allows people to see the other aspect, the other side of this, their quote unquote idol. They're like, oh wow, he's like me. He's like me. He actually can sneeze. He actually can burp. He when he wakes up in the morning, he's not perfect. And when they see this, it's the other side that you don't see on TV, that quote unquote perfect person. Then they're like, so they take into that. So YouTube gives that opportunity. And that's how actually g.o.d, our group, in the beginning, how we actually took off was, we weren't the quote unquote pretty boys, like all the other K-pop groups. But we we did a reality TV show. We were the first to do a first reality TV show in Korea. It was called oh God, it's called g.o.d, which is like a nursery baby diaries or whatever it was. And so it was like 5 men and a baby. And we're, you know, like 19-year-old and like a 30-year-old guy who's never taken care of a baby. They give us this 1-year-old kid and say, take care of this guy. And we're like, whoa. And the reality aspect of it, people took into it. They're like, whoa, back then, if we had YouTube, we'd be bigger than BTS right now. You know what I mean? Internationally, right? But, you know, YouTube has created that for people. It's like, I don't want to take up too much of the time from everyone else, but I just always wanted to say, in life, there's so many different types of people with so many different tastes. On TV, they just show you what you're supposed to see and what's supposed to be perfect, what's supposed to be idealized. But YouTube gives that opportunity for those people that aren't perfect, quote unquote, for what perfect is supposed to be. So those other people that might not like perfect see something else, they can choose, pick and choose what, oh, wow, this is what I like. They're not force feeding me this. I can choose to watch this. And those people who are not perfect, quote unquote, who are delivering these to these people are going, wow, these people like me and I'm not perfect. Then that not perfect person becomes now the standard. So YouTube has created this for everyone. For someone who's not perfect to become perfect in their own world, and then that world gets bigger. That's why someone like Psy, to be honest, come on, Psy, he's my boy, but he's not the most perfect, perfect guy, right? He doesn't look perfect. He's not the quote unquote, Superman looking, come on, dude, he's tubby and whatever, whatnot, but he made it. He made, YouTube gave him the chance to be that perfect person. And people who weren't perfect are like, wow, he did it. I could do it too. So they were not embarrassed to do all these, dances on. So, I mean, I personally think, internet is one of the best creations, but YouTube is one of the best creations, I think, in order to make people that are not so perfect or very low self-esteem grow their self-esteem. And I think I kind of went off on a subject, but I always wanted to tell people this. I think it's just great what's happening right now. Yeah.
That's most of us. Most of us are not perfect and have low self-esteem. So.
I think we would
be. What you're speaking about is democratization of video, right? Like that's really it. Like what YouTube did was democratized video and gave everyone a voice, and that's really our mission, right? Give everyone a voice and show them the world.
Absolutely.
That's it.
I think it's an important thing there, if I can jump in. It's YouTube sort of is that first person driven, that first person perspective that I think has been a fantastic complement to the kinds of things that Kpop and the Korean entertainment industries want to do, because a lot of the success of Kpop has been built on fans feeling that intimate connection, and also fans feeling that sense of belonging to some sort of an insider society, that sense of the social signifiers. I know what my favorite idol eats for breakfast, or I know these particular dance moves which would signify that I belong to the society. That's an important part of K-pop and its success globally. And so YouTube, again, because of that first person sort of perspective, because of that user-driven perspective, because of that democratization, it's allowed for the conveyance of culture in this way, essentially, and in that very organic way. And again, it's grown organically with K-pop and the way it disseminates itself as well. Yeah, really important things there.
Well, and I think it's interesting too, especially with K-pop. It's not just the artists that are posting onto YouTube. And Robert, I guess this question is for you. We see a lot of fans posting videos of themselves dancing or reacting. How has YouTube sort of fostered that avenue, that creativity, so that in a lot of ways has helped some of these songs and these artists grow with their popularity as other people posting things about them?
Yeah, that's really that's really very core part of open platforms like YouTube. And I spoke earlier about our work with the record labels, right? Let's say with the music industry or movie studios, TV studios, in that industry, and how they embraced fans taking their content and uploading it to YouTube. Obviously, we have a fingerprinting software called Content ID that allows us to track that and then make sure that we're sending the revenue to the copyright owners, right? So that really underlies, that technology underlies our cooperation with everyone and making sure that it adheres to that. But it's the mission is give everyone a voice and show them the world. Well, that everyone includes fans, and there are a lot of them. And and sometimes the fan content can propel the canonical content, right? Again, I use the Psy example with Gangnam Style. There's so many fan uploaded videos and versions that then made people listen to the canonical song. So both of those parts together then became big drivers of revenue. BTS is very lucky and very sophisticated to have the BTS Army, right? I mean, it's incredible what is happening with the community around the band, and we think it's fantastic when people can engage with the content and with their stars that way, because then it goes, what Joon said, it goes to the authenticity, right? And it goes to the connection that you can have with the artist. And and our way of embracing it is we have to make sure that the people who create the underlying content feel safe about it, which means we have to have the systems that track it. We have to have the systems that can send them revenue for it, right? So that it's not just misused content, right? But it's content that is appropriately remunerated to the copyright holders. And we also love that there are people who start as fans of someone, then they start using their content, start creating, and at some point they can become great creators themselves. There are people who started with covers, right, and then they became artists, etc. So it's just a pipeline of creativity and pipeline of talent that's accessible from anywhere. So yeah, we're thrilled to have both on our platform.
It's so cool to see the BTS Army. Anytime we've had them on Good Morning America, they're out there camping out days in advance. And they literally are all walks of life, all shades of colors. Many of them have never been exposed to Korean culture prior to becoming fans of BTS, but they know all the words, even the Korean words. And it's really incredible to watch all of these people who look completely different from each other, standing together, excited about a K-pop boy band. You're like, whoa, that's amazing. I'm curious for you, Joon, what's the advantage of going to YouTube versus some other platform to publish content? Because there are a lot of platforms out there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there are a lot of platforms out there, but the good thing about YouTube is you have more freedom. I mean, I'm not going to name names. I've worked with a few. But YouTube gives you the freedom, and as long as you're like not totally out of boundaries, YouTube, you have all the freedom that you don't have to do a thing a certain quote unquote way. You could do it your way, and the freedom that it gives you, whether it be a really like a technical video, or if it's just like you said, just wake up in the morning and be like, I just woke up and I have a zit on my nose and I feel gross. You could do this and it's not bad. So, I mean, okay, let's just say this. YouTube's not prejudice. You could do anything that you really want to, as long as you're not out of boundaries. Yeah.
And Bob, what do you think makes YouTube different? It kind of sets them apart.
Makes YouTube different from other platforms, for example, or just, well, I mean, I think, again, it is that intimacy. I think people are on there for the reason they're expecting user-driven, that first-person content. That's the signature of YouTube versus other media platforms, versus other sort of extensions of social media. And I think people look to YouTube for those moments of unvarnished sort of reality that only YouTube allows for, and particularly in again, in terms of Korean culture, Korean mainstream broadcast, Korean mainstream sort of standards for say official company sponsored content, that sort of thing. They tend to be pretty restrictive. There are Korean celebrities from across the spectrum, from musicians to actors to comedians, flocking to YouTube because, as Joon says, it provides them that vehicle for individual expression, and they can choose whatever subject matter they're interested in, whatever presentation style that may suit them. And again, and people vote with their feet, so it's a meritocracy, and I think that's refreshing for people, content creators. That really the success or lack thereof is very much dependent on on them and their own and versus factors that could influence other things, politics and economics, that sort of thing. If you get out there, you put content that people want to see, they will watch it, and you'll have an opportunity to express yourself in this manner that is not necessarily there for you if you're working within sort of the constraints of a broadcast system or a network system or a company system. I think that's the advantage it provides, particularly to Korean performers.
Do you think that's in part why Korean performers were so drawn to YouTube, because the traditional media in Korea is fairly conservative?
No, very, very much so. It's not even just conservative. It's restricted and controlled by all sorts of sort of insider politics and unwritten rules and levels of hierarchy. Things again that Mr. Joon Park there is well familiar with. And again, people have identified that YouTube is a place where they can do something that probably would never get aired on a mainstream, and then we're not talking necessarily, outrageously, outrageous content by any means, really. It's just, again, mainstream TV, for example, in Korea is very conservative. It's also a voice for different, more diverse perspectives. There is not too much of a voice. There's still a lack of a voice for women across Korean media. There's still a lack of acknowledgement and voice for sexual and gender diversity, for example. So YouTube, again, allows people to explore, and also it tends to be the case in Korean media. People get pigeonholed into certain, again, you are just an action hero, and again, YouTube allows people to express different sides of themselves. I think this has been a refreshing thing, and also there's the reality of it provides a revenue stream for artists who are often, again, limited to a system that constrains them to kind of contracts and ways of making revenue that favor the companies historically, whereas this is a way of getting direct revenue based on the direct merits of the work you're producing yourself, which is fairly a new and innovative thing still in the Korean environment.
Joon, I saw you doing the, yes, that agreeing with him on the, do you feel like that you were restricted in some ways and YouTube gave you this kind of platform to do things that you felt like were more creative and more yourself?
Oh, Lord. I mean, when we first started this back in 1999, when we first debuted, our first appearance on TV, which was kind of like Good Morning, we like totally perfected our choreography. We were ready to go out there and just, show all that we had, because this is our first shot. And I had dyed my hair platinum blonde, and we had all our earrings on. It's 5 minutes before we went on. They're like, okay, this is a live broadcast. Okay, what are you going to do about your hair? I go, pardon? I go, we can't have blonde hair on TV. I go, why? They go, you're not supposed to have blonde hair. You're supposed to have black hair. I go, really? No one told me. So they take off your earrings, whatever. They had to spray my hair black, but they ran out of spray, so only the front was black. The side and the rear were yellow. So they go, okay, when you sway, you can't move too much because we can't see that yellow hair. We can only see if you look at the footage, go and watch our first footage later on YouTube. It's there. I'm saying like this, because I couldn't sway side to side because you can see my blonde hair. That's how it was. That's how restrictive it was back then. Girls couldn't wear skirts that went above 2 inches above their knees. It was really restrictive. So, and in the 24 years, YouTube, nobody knew that I knew how to surf. Nobody knew that I knew how to skate. Nobody knew that I love cars, and I like, so much knowledge in cars. I just opened up a car channel, and now people know that I know about cars. And so yeah, it gives you an opportunity to show a part of yourself that other people don't even know you have. So I mean, YouTube is awesome. I mean, I like I said, I'm not in YouTube's blood because Robert's here. I really, really, really enjoy YouTube, this platform.
Eva, can I add something there?
Yeah.
In defense of the other media companies, I think the difference is that we have unlimited shelf space, and when you're on television, there's 24 hours, right? That's scheduled, right? That's all you can do, and so because of that, you have to try to guess what the most amount of people for each hour will watch. And that's how you get into decisions like, hey, your hair shouldn't be platinum, it should be black, and things of that nature, right? Because people are trying to guess what most people will, for that hour will watch. On YouTube, because it's unlimited show space, you can take many different shots at different things, and we don't have to do that kind of guessing because the creators just put out the content and it's there, and either audiences like it or they don't, and then you can decide that because you like cars, you launch another channel, right? And you can create specifically content, focused on automotive industry, etc. So it's really the unlimited show space nature of YouTube and the openness, right, that you can publish into it whenever you want, that allow you this freedom and of creativity and allow for authenticity that Joon was talking about a lot. And that's how the difference organically develops between open platforms like ours and closed platforms like TV channels, right? And so everybody has the best intentions for like running the best business and getting the best audiences, but we're all dealing with different constraints, right? And so the open nature, we believe, is really great for places like Korea that have lots of creativity and can share it with the world, and it's happening.
Bob, do you think that having an open channel like that for the industry allows them to take risks with artists and groups that maybe they wouldn't have otherwise given a chance to?
Absolutely. One thing about the Korean industry, it's easy to criticize, the monolithic nature of whatever, and the control they try to exercise. But it's the industry and the companies are nothing if not responsive. They're always watching, they're always learning, and they have learned already that YouTube, for purely marketing purposes, provides a fantastic vehicle for advanced test marketing, for trying out the saleability or marketability or even likability of new artists and acts. And I think they actively are doing that. You see things, formal things like teasers coming out for new acts and groups and artists, but you'll see things like people having young unestablished artists with their own live feeds and YouTube channels even before they've had a release. So again, you see clearly that the companies using the platform and the opportunities and the unique kind of even the analytics you get from YouTube to very much test out, okay, what is the potential of this artist and what is you see that happening more and more, but it's still under the guise of this organic sort of user driven or first person kind of introduction to this person. So it's not necessarily out of place with what they're on with what's out there on YouTube already, but absolutely that's happening.
Robert, I'm curious because K-pop is such an international phenomenon at this point. If K-pop success on YouTube has also helped YouTube get into other parts of the world and gain viewers in other countries that you guys weren't necessarily expecting or are able to sort of attribute back to, oh, those people were watching K-pop videos.
Yeah, it's not necessarily that we would get more people, but what would happen is that more people around the world would engage with YouTube more because now they have this additional type of content that they like that they didn't experience before. So what I'm saying is that Kpop helped expand the choices that we provide our users all around the world. And and the more choice people have, the more likely they're to engage and enjoy themselves. So Kpop has definitely helped with engagement of users by providing something innovative and new and fun. And I have to say the really interesting part is that people engage, and this goes to what Bob was saying, the audio visual nature of it, that people love engaging with it even if they don't understand the words, because and because it's got great melody, it's got phenomenal visuals, right, and it's fun. So it's very very captive.
It's interesting because, for so many of us who didn't grow up speaking English as our first language, right? We learned English watching television and movies and also listening to music. And I wonder if people are learning Korean by watching movies and television and listening to music as well, because they are learning. I mean, they know every single word.
Absolutely.
When we think about the kind of the year that we've just come out of, more than a year, I guess it's been now, the pandemic, YouTube has been so critical in allowing artists and creators to still engage with their fan bases. Why do you think, what role do you think YouTube played to make that happen? Because people couldn't have concerts anymore. Bob, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, YouTube is as close as you can get almost to that sense of immediacy. You can have live events, you can have interactive, with YouTube as a platform, and I think it's served a crucial need, even for people hungering, to feel that connectedness. Whether it's through a fandom, whether it's through reacting to common content, or whether it's through linking through live events with their favorite artists. I think it really actually did provide not only sort of a beacon of hope and support, but a connectedness in a time when people felt a genuine loss of connection with people around them. Probably contributed to a little bit more lower back pain, because people, I think, spent a lot of time sitting and looking and watching some of this content. And again, I think, again, because K-pop has always used YouTube as a means of creating community, as a means of creating that sense of social inclusion into something, we're all in on something exciting and new and interesting. That in and of itself could turn to, a force for good, if you will, during a time as trying and as difficult as the pandemic.
Joon, what role do you think that YouTube played? I mean, for you, someone who's putting content out there all the time, to stay engaged? Oh, I think we don't have his audio there. All right. I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. As Bob was saying, even last week we had a streaming online concert for the fans, and it's a whole new world, this pandemic has brought onto us. So it's like, it was really strange performing in front of nobody, right? But in the living room of the fan through YouTube, and it gave us an opportunity. Even we can't be there in person, we gave them that feeling of being together, So I mean, I think during the pandemic, YouTube has helped us out a lot, because a lot of people, I mean, even me wearing the mask or being cooped up, staying at home, you feel like you're trapped. But then you could go and make content for people. Instead, they're like, oh man, I wish I was outside. Well, I could go outside and give them that moment of time, being outside in the sun, or going to the States and showing them how it is in the States, or going to this restaurant because you can't be there, I'm going there for you. Giving us the opportunity to connect in that aspect, I think YouTube played a huge role. Yeah.
Robert, I'm curious what you guys saw from a metrics perspective during the pandemic, as people were using YouTube as a way to make sure they maintained a connection
Yeah. So first, I want to echo what June and Bob said, which is um, creators, artists, they kind of became like even more important than they are in regular life during COVID, because they provided connectivity for people. What June just said. So many artists were live streaming. People are dialing in, and it was, like everybody was glued to the computer to work, right? And people are exhausted. They don't have the human connection. They're in front of the computer working, and everybody was looking for some kind of an escape, and making sure that they're getting entertained and they're having fun, right? That there was a fun infusion into what was a bit of a depressing time. So I think that was amazing. So for artists, creators to connect and do that, provide it for people, is amazing. The other part that we saw was that people were coming to YouTube to catch up on news a lot, because there was constantly something new, something was happening all the time, things were changing, etc. So we had lots of people in a sort of a news searching mode. For us, then we have lots of features like top news shelves and breaking news shelves, and we work with authoritative news organizations around the world to provide the content. And so that was happening a lot. And then the other really big component, and they were coming also we were working with the national health systems in every country to make sure that we were actually pushing people to their websites from YouTube, which is normally not something that we do. But during that time, it seemed like very important that we steered people towards the one place, in the country that was giving people information about health, right, and what's happening with COVID. And because of that, lots of governments started to work with us, or religious organizations, including the Pope, doing Sunday Mass on YouTube, because they didn't want people to go to church. Obviously, they didn't want them to congregate at that time. And and then we saw, President Macron and Angela Merkel in Germany, etc. They would be on YouTube together with YouTube creators, encouraging people to wear masks or stay home, etc. Or give updates. The Italian government giving 8-hour live stream, full updates on what was going on during the deepest crisis over there. So all of that was happening. And then the other part was people were coming to YouTube to learn, whether it was kids, like looking up various learning materials. It was probably their parents helping them with it and doing it. But we just saw spike in learning content that people are searching and watching. And people are learning about health, about their bodies, math, all kinds of interests. So it was very interesting how YouTube became a place for information, a place for learning, and a place for entertainment. And all of that together, when you combine it, increased consumption quite a lot. And so our teams were obviously working incredibly hard that we could meet all of those demands and make sure that it worked reliably for everybody around the world.
We have just a little bit more than 10 minutes left. So I want to ask you guys, future looking of K-pop, right? We'll start with you, June. What do you think are some of the most notable trends and artists that you see emerging from Korea right now? Who should we be watching for? What should we be watching for?
You know what? I think it's like, don't just be watching for the norm, as in meaning the quote unquote typical just K-pop. Now, what you need to look for are the underground kids, the kids that really have they don't have to look like dolls or perfect Superman or Wonder Woman, look for the guys that are.
You mean like you?
Talent, Come on. Hey, literally, I'm telling you, there's a lot of talent out there. Sometimes, as you know, in this entertainment world, a lot of these people aren't given the opportunity just because they don't have the quote unquote look or whatnot. But because of YouTube, I think you should search on YouTube for the next it. because literally there's a lot of guys with talent out there, you know, all over the world. In K-pop, I would look for that. Oh wow, this guy, and then you'll be like, he's the next hit. Seriously, trust me, because there's already been too many of the, you know, superstars that you picture in your head that are, you know, the real superstars or whatever you want to call it. But now it's gonna be that different. Oh wow, this guy, this girl, it's gonna be that. Trust me.
Bob, what trends or artists are you watching for?
Yeah, you know, I absolutely agree with the June. The whole I hate to use the word almost, but indie is really the future of what you want to watch for exciting things on the Korean musical landscape. As June said, there's a whole new generation who are realizing there's a path to being independent artists that doesn't have to be based on companies or even record labels, because again, there's a platform like YouTube that enables them to have a home for their content, a place to sell their content. Also, I think there's a hunger among young people in Korea to re-embrace things like instruments and live music and actual singing and that sort of thing, and the experience of getting together, you know, in a garage, although there aren't that many garages like there are in North America, you know, with drums and guitar, and actually make that sort of music, put it out, and with that indie spirit. So I think there's going to be much more of that. Also, I think there's going to be continued hybridizing with really older traditional Korean forms. You get groups like Inachi doing some really interesting things, you know, combining, you know, funky progressive, you know, bass with traditional Korean vocals. And again, they're not supported by major labels per se, and YouTube has been instrumental in getting them known around the world before they even had, you know, sort of a hidden video. The third thing I'm always watching for, I think you're going to get a continued merging, again, on YouTube as the primary platform of K-pop and music, and the worlds of AI and gaming and the whole sort of electronic universe, webtoons, that sort of thing. There's going to be a blurring of those lines. Is this a music video? Is this an anime? Or is this an anime? Or is this a feature film? You know, artists going to have avatars, as we see some groups having. So there's going to be progress on that indie grassroots side of things, but there's going to be continued sophistication on that corporate side that kind of takes advantage of the wide open opportunities YouTube gives. It gives room for everything for you know, from that kind of corporate linked with gaming sort of developed world, all the way to the indie bands that you're going to see much more of, as June has said.
And Robert, to you, I'm sure you're already kind of seeing some of the metrics come in off of what's on YouTube. So you kind of have like a little sneaky insight into what's coming for us in the future. But what are some of the trends that you're seeing already?
I think we're not that much smarter than the creative forces sitting here themselves, because they have a really good finger on the pulse. But I do think that you know, there's something to the format blending, right? That you know, not everything will be the way it used to be, like, you know, these, you know, simple formats, and you just see lots of creativity. And I completely forgot earlier on to actually include, Bob just reminded me as he was speaking, to include gaming in yet another area of accomplishment, you know, for the Korean people. It's like, it just like literally every form of entertainment somehow has been conquered, and I think the blend of these things, right, the infusion of gaming, you know, mainstreaming of gaming, and connection of video and gaming together is a really big thing. I think also, like within music, I think there'll probably be stronger and stronger hip hop influence, right? That will probably get infused into more and more Korean songs. Not that I would know anything about that creative process myself, but like it's a very popular genre globally, and K-pop is very popular globally. So you can see, I mean, and you already like start seeing it, obviously, but I can see more direction over there, and I also think the you know, the visual nature of it will probably continue to evolve, and I don't know how, But you know, what I can tell you is we launched shorts, you know, very short videos. You know, we're like in early stages of the launch, and we're seeing so much growth and engagement from people creating. Just come up with a whole bunch of innovative things all the time. So the barriers to creation have been completely leveled. And if you're somebody who is really focused on trying things out, you try with shorts, then you keep on growing your creative skills, and maybe you start making longer videos. So you do a whole bunch of short videos as part of your like everyday schedule. Once in a while, you do a longer one. You broaden your repertoire. You grow as an artist. You grow as a creator. So it's the gift of multiple formats that can coexist on the channel. So for artists, you can have your shorts. You can have whatever personal videos you want to infuse there. You have your music video, actually highly produced music video. All of that can reside on your channel, right? And drive an audience and build around it. So to me, the sort of the multiple format availability and discoverability by users globally is something that you'll see probably a lot more innovation around.
Well, it's been so nice getting to chat with the three of you. And I hope that everyone who's been watching has enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. Again, thanks to Robert Kyncl, Joon Park, and Bob Ock for your insights and this wonderful time together. Our special thanks to the IT director of the Korea Society, Peter Stumke, who made this webcast, this live webcast all possible, made sure that there weren't too many technical issues. And thanks to everyone at YouTube and the Korea Society who have been working behind the scenes on this program and for this program. Of course, our thanks to you, the viewers and the members of the Korea Society for watching. We hope you will join us again and check out what's coming up on the Korea Society's website, koreasociety.org. Make sure you subscribe. You know, on YouTube, you have to subscribe. So make sure you hit the subscribe button for the Korea Society's YouTube channel. Thanks again, you guys. Hope you all have a good night.
Thank you
very much, Eva.
Love Korea.
Thank you. We'll look forward to crossing paths again with you in Korea sometime.